Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great show for you tonight. We have Soma, also known as Marc Rossman. Soma is the proprietor of Soma Sacred Seeds and Soma's Threads and Stones. So we'll be talking to him about that. He's a longtime grower, pretty famous. He lived here in Oregon for a while. I remember back when he did. He's been in Amsterdam for almost 30 years. So we'll be talking to him about the business there and the climate there. We have an interesting short little hip news segment with 3 stories for you. And as always, we're going to start off with our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
Okay, our first hip news story tonight is from the great state of Oklahoma. Representatives with the group Oklahomans for Sensible Marijuana Laws have turned in over 164,000 signatures to Oklahoma's Secretary of State's office in an effort to place a binding statewide marijuana legalization initiative on the November ballot. That total is well above the number of signatures necessary to qualify. They needed 94,911. So they got about more than 70,000 more. The proposed measure seeks to permit adults to legally possess and home cultivate personal use quantities of cannabis while also establishing a licensed retail marketplace. Those with past marijuana convictions are those who currently are incarcerated for certain cannabis-related crimes would be able to petition the court for either record expungement or resentencing consideration. Oklahoma voters in 2018 approved a statewide ballot initiative permitting the licensed production and retail sale of cannabis to those with a physician's authorization or medical marijuana. The state now has one of the most robust medical marijuana access programs in the United States. By contrast, adult use possessions punishable by up to 1 year in jail and a $1,000 fine. Earlier this year, Oklahoma's Republican Governor Ken Stitt admitted that voters were misled, or claimed that voters were misled when they approved medical cannabis legalization. In June, he signed legislation into law imposing a moratorium on the issuance of new cannabis business licenses. We've had a moratorium on cannabis licenses in Oregon for about 5 years now. While campaigning for governor in Oklahoma, Stitt said that he personally opposed legalizing marijuana for adults and that he would campaign against it, but he also acknowledged that he would respect the will of the voters should they decide in favor of it. If approved for the ballot, Oklahoma will be one of a number of states where voters will be deciding the issue this fall. In Maryland, voters will decide on a legislative referendum legalizing the use of marijuana by those aged 21 or older. South Dakota voters will decide on an initiated Measure 27, which permits adults to possess up to 1 ounce, home cultivate up to 3 mature plants, and transfer without remuneration limited quantities of cannabis. In May, the group Legal Missouri turned in more than 385,000 signatures to Missouri officials, more than double the total necessary to place a constitutional amendment on the ballot legalizing marijuana. Separate ballot initiative efforts remain ongoing in other states, including Nebraska and North Dakota. As in past election years, voters in both traditionally red and blue states will have an opportunity to cast their vote in favor of ending the failed policy of cannabis criminalization. And if past precedence is a precedent, voters in 2022 will once again demonstrate that legalizing and regulating marijuana is favored by the majority of voters, regardless of geography or party affiliation. Our next story is from closer to home for us here in Nevada. In 2021, Nevada state lawmakers passed a bill legalizing cannabis consumption establishments, also known as lounges, under two categories of licensing. One for retail cannabis consumption lounges, others which existing retailers will be able to sell products to be consumed on site, and another for independent cannabis consumption lounges that will open a standalone lounge and sell single serving and ready to consume products. Last week, the Nevada Cannabis Compliance Board, or CCB, voted unanimously to approve regulations for the licensing and operation of cannabis consumption lounges. Regulators said they expect to open the first round of licensing for consumption lounges this fall, with the first lounges opening as soon as the end of the year. Such private spaces would be ideal for visiting tourists and others, such as those tenants who rent in buildings where cannabis use is not permitted, and ideally would reduce the likelihood of adults consuming cannabis in non-designated public spaces. It's also consistent with the regulations that permit the consumption of alcohol at appropriately licensed establishments. California, Connecticut, and New York have allowances for social consumption. Tyler Klimas, the executive director of Nevada's Cannabis Control Board, said that he believes the state's new rules are the most robust. Nevada's lounges, he noted, will operate more like bars by selling single-use products rather than requiring customers to bring their own cannabis. Additionally, Governor Sisolak of Nevada tweeted his support, saying, quote, "In Nevada, we prioritized innovative policies to expand the cannabis industry while protecting Nevadans and diversifying our economy." Our last story tonight is from Israel. The administration of aerolized cannabis via a novel inhaler is associated with long-term pain reduction in patients with neuropathy and other chronic conditions, according to data published in the journal Pain Reports. Israeli investigators assessed the efficacy of cannabis delivered via a novel metered selective dose inhaler, the Sync inhaler, in a cohort of chronic pain patients. The mean stable daily dose used by patients in the study was 1.5 milligrams of aerolized delta-9 THC. Use of the inhaler over a period of several months was associated with reduced pain scores and improvements in patients' quality of life. Some patients reported mild side effects like dizziness and sleepiness at the onset of the study, but few participants continued to report those effects throughout the duration of the trial. The authors concluded, quote, "Medical cannabis treatment with the Sync inhaler demonstrated overall long-term pain reductions, quality of life improvements, and opioid-sparing effects with a cohort of patients with chronic pain using just a fraction of the amount of medical cannabis compared with other modes of delivery by inhalation. These outcomes were accompanied by lower rate of adverse events and almost no adverse event reports during a long-term steady-state follow-up. Additionally, follow-up with larger population is warranted to corroborate our findings," end quote. They always say that. According to recently compiled survey data, nearly 1 in 3 chronic pain patients report using cannabis for treatment management. Among patients in the United States where medical cannabis access is permitted, over 60% are qualified to use it to treat pain. The full text of this study, Long-Term Effectiveness and Safety of Medical Cannabis Administered through Metered Dose Sync Inhalers, appears in this month's edition of Pain Reports. That's the end of our hemp news segment for tonight. Now we have our interview with Soma of Soma's Sacred Seeds. So stay tuned for that and keep working to restore hemp. Good night. I would like to welcome Soma. Soma is a past Oregonian who's been living in Amsterdam for going on 30 years now. He is the proprietor of Soma's Sacred Seeds and Soma's Sacred Threads and Stones. Thanks for coming on, Soma. It's a real honor to have you on here.
My pleasure.
You are a longtime activist. You lived here in Oregon. We both lived here for about a decade at the same time. And I remember hearing about you a lot, but I didn't really get to see you and meet you. I was living in Portland. I guess you were down in Eugene.
Yes.
But I know you were around when we were putting marijuana legalization on the ballot in the mid 80s. That's
Right.
when I first heard about you.
Yes. And in 1995, I flew Jack Herrera. No, yeah, 1995, I flew Jack Herrera to Eugene, and we did a big demonstration with bands and a fashion show in front of the Eugene County Courthouse.
Oh, yeah. So that was after he had his first stroke, right?
No, before.
Well, that was before he. Oh, yeah, that was.
Yeah, that was before.
Yeah, that would have been about 2000 when he still was really a powerful speaker. It wasn't. Yeah,
he inspired me to be a speaker. I didn't speak, especially about cannabis. Like I was always going about cannabis because I didn't want to get busted. But he inspired me to be a powerful speaker about cannabis. And I never stopped. I never stopped.
Right. Well, I met Jack in 1982 when I went to LA, and I was an Evergreen State College student, and I was there for about 6 weeks as I tried to get on trivia-based game shows because I can answer a lot of those trivial questions, you know. And so while I was there, I was already a contact in the Yippie newspaper Overthrow, and I looked up the Reefer Raiders. That was the Los Angeles contact for the Yippies called the Reefer Raiders. So I went and I stayed in this guy, Captain Ed Adair's shop in the back. There was a blacklight room. It was Heads and Hides on Van Nuys Boulevard. And I stayed there for about a month, worked part-time for Hayden. And then just as I was leaving to go back to Evergreen State College at the end of the summer session, Captain Ed said, "You got to meet my partner, Jack," just as I was driving. So I went and I went to Jack's head shop, which was called High Country. And he gave me the copy of his first book, which was a coloring book, really, on how to grade marijuana on a scale of 1 to 10. And then I went on my way. We talked at that point in 82 about an initiative in Oregon that had almost made the ballot in July of 82. But then we both moved to Oregon in 84 and helped put it on the ballot in 85. I know and we both started growing pot in our basements too, which is another thing that came down. And we actually financed putting marijuana legalization on the ballot by growing pot. And so
great.
Yeah.
So great. I met him in 1990 the first time. You heard of Gainesville Green?
Sure.
Cannabis.
The first.
Okay, well, I lived in Gainesville for 18 years.
Wow.
And I flew Jack to Gainesville, Florida in 1990, and we put on a huge hemp rally in front of the courthouse there.
That's the college town in Florida.
That's the University of Florida town.
Yeah.
And that started happening in Gainesville, Florida every year. From that point, from 1990 on, it never stopped. And now in Florida, it's legal.
Yeah, medical's legal.
And Oregon, every place I've lived, it becomes more legal or legal. I lived in Oregon, it's legal. I lived in Florida, it's legal. New York, I lived, it's legal. So it's like almost every place that I've like spoken and written and enlightened people about this holy cannabis plant, it's become legal through time.
How did you first become involved with cannabis? How did you discover its sacred value?
Okay, in 1967, I worked at IBM on Madison Avenue and 57th Street.
Wow.
With a three-piece suit, clean shaven, short hair. And while I was working there, I was so naive when I worked there. I don't know what, I mean, I did a good job there. I even won a $300 incentive award when I worked there because I'm no dummy. But I met this inter-office courier who would bring mail from one office to another. He came in, and And he asked me if I ever smoked marijuana. And I said, no, but I'd like to. And I said, but I don't even know how to roll one of those cigarettes, I called it. I didn't even know the word joint yet. And he said, I'll bring you some roll joints tomorrow. And so the next morning he came in. He had 15, not pin joints, roll joints for $5 US, 1967. He gave him the $5. Right after work, I went to the East River. There was no lighters back then. I had matches. And
Yeah.
nobody was on my left. Nobody was on my right. I lit the joint and I smoked it all by myself. And by the time I finished that joint, I said to myself, wow, I really like this feeling. And so I started doing it only on the weekends. You know, I'd work Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, I'd get some weed and smoke it. Then I started smoking it on my lunch break.
Mm-hmm.
At work. You know, I'd go for lunch and I could take a couple of puffs and didn't get caught and I was good. And back then they weren't really trying to catch it, 1967. And so then I started smoking in the morning before I went to work, smoking at night when I got home. They had a white shirt policy. I'd put a yellow shirt on with my suit. You know, my hair started going. My sideburns started going down. They called me in the office and said, look, we got a white shirt policy here. You got to get a haircut and you got to cut those sideburns. I said, I quit. So I quit that job. I started driving a taxi in New York City.
Wow.
Because I could have long hair and a beard, have the hack license. Nobody bothered me. Not only that, but whenever I didn't have a passenger, I could smoke something good. I used to go to LaGuardia Airport. In fact, my stepbrothers were in Vietnam, and they brought back this. They smuggled back this Vietnamese weed that was so unbelievably great, and I was getting it for $20 an ounce back then, or lid. $20 a lid.
Yeah, it was
it wasn't a whole.
right.
And so, this weed was phenomenal. Even to this day, if I had it, I would think it was phenomenal. And I'd be smoking that. I'd go to LaGuardia Airport, wait online. I'd smoke a joint while I was waiting, or a pipe or whatever. It'd take me about 45 minutes to get to the front of the line, where I'd pick up somebody to go into Manhattan to a hotel. I usually did from the hotel to the airport, from the airport to the hotel. But I was so stoned that driving in, I forgot I had a passenger. I was listening to my FM radio, blasting it, and like I went right past the person's address, and I started knocking on the glass, you know, on the plexiglass in the back, and I remembered I had a passenger. I pulled over. I didn't charge them. I made them get out. They had to get another taxi, but I didn't charge them for the ride. But like, yeah. And then after that, I moved to San Francisco.
Right.
And
So
yeah, and then to Florida.
Uh-huh. And so when did you come to Oregon?
I came to Oregon in 1991.
Okay.
And I left Oregon in 1995 and came here.
So I know you and I have both been busted for pot here in Oregon. Then did that have something to do with why you left?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
did about 6 months, I recall.
Yeah. I did 6 months in the Eugene County Jail.
Uh-huh.
And it was the pits, really. It was shitty, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except for my girlfriend me calling my girlfriend and she's saying, look, 5 minutes, I'm gonna be right outside the front. And like you weren't allowed to look out the window. But I did. I looked out the window and she'd go she'd just lift her shirt and show me her tits. And I wouldn't get caught, you know. So that was crazy.
All right. So were you busted for growing then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had 80 plants. It was really weird how I got busted in Eugene.
Uh-huh.
I pulled off the crop, harvested it, dried it, put it in jars, and then decided I was going to move to Maui, Hawaii. And I wanted to send 2 boxes of jars to Maui ahead of me. And I also had a Toyota Chinook camper. I sent that to Maui. Crop was done. My daughter's boyfriend was 19. He helped me, and when there was no, digital photos, only film rolls. So I said, look, we're going to go to this 1 hour photo. A good photographer friend of mine took pictures of the crop. We had great pictures of the crop. And I had this roll of film. I told my daughter's 19-year-old boyfriend, look, drop this off anonymously at the 1 hour photo. So he took it in. He didn't give the name, but he gave the phone number. And sure enough, as soon as they developed him, they saw the cannabis plants. They called the cops. They gave him the phone, looked up where the phone number was. It wasn't a cell phone. And sure enough, as soon as 5 minutes after we pulled up there with the photographs, started looking at them, they surrounded the place and busted me. There was no pot growing, but I had all the pot in these ball jars.
Yeah.
They took it all. I had a fake ID at the time, and I gave them the fake ID. Had no charges on it. They didn't take me to the jail because it was so clean. They didn't take me to the jail. The next morning, my girlfriend and I were supposed to get on the plane to go to Maui. We still were going to do that, and we drove to Portland to the airport because we had the tickets to go to Maui. We checked into a hotel. We had to go to the airport between 6:30 and 7 in the morning. And that morning, I started bringing a suitcase out to the car. And right as I was going back in, cops surrounded me. Somehow they found me. They must have went to every hotel or something looking for when they busted me in Eugene, this rent-a-car was in the parking lot. So they saw the license plate and stuff. And somehow they found me. They said, on the ground. They pulled out guns on the ground. My girlfriend too on the ground. They separated us. They took me to the Eugene County Jail, where I did 6 months in jail from that point. Never got out.
All right.
And then they found out that I was a fugitive. They found out my real ID from my fingerprints. Found out that I was a fugitive from Florida, from Gainesville. And Gainesville wanted to extradite me back to Florida.
Oh, no.
But I had many lawyers in Gainesville through the years. And one of them was even a judge, became a judge. And so I got in touch with many of them, and they got that if I signed a paper saying that I wouldn't go back to Gainesville for 10 years, they dropped the extradition thing. So I signed the paper. That was 1993. 1994, I fucking told Jack Herrera to come there again. We put on another hemp rally in front of the courthouse. I broke that whole thing. I wasn't supposed to go there for 10 years, but I went there, put on this hemp rally, talked on the stage. Jack talked on the stage, so did I. And I didn't get caught. And then I came to Amsterdam right after that in Gainesville. I came to Amsterdam at the behest of Steve Hager, the editor of High Times. We were friends, and he said, look, you got to come to the Cannabis Cup. So I came here in 94. I was here for a week. I got picked by somebody to be a celebrity judge. So I got 14 different types of cannabis that all had seeds. I saved every seed, labeled them, brought them back to America, grew this amazing crop in Eugene, grew 10,000 seeds female seeds, and then I brought them to Amsterdam, those 10,000 seeds, and started it here.
I see. So you had 10,000 seeds. How many different varieties? 14?
No, maybe even 20.
Soma,
20
Okay.
different crosses.
key for Carl.
And so you've been in Amsterdam ever since, and you've established Soma Sacred Seeds.
Yeah, I started out being a illegal alien here for 22 years, and then I went to the government. I told them that I had been here that long. I can't get it off. And they gave me the residency anyway.
Okay, so you moved to Amsterdam, and you had
With all
about
these seeds as an illegal alien. I found friends of mine that were in the seed business. They were moving out of their place. They had a great grow room set up. They said, "Do you want to take it over?" I said, "Yeah, man, that's just what I need." So I moved in there, grew an amazing crop. And then about 4 or 5 months later, it got raided by the cops, who came looking for these guys.
oh, so they weren't looking for you. They were looking for the
They
other.
didn't know who I was. They were looking for them, but they found the whole grow that I had set up, busted me, and that was 1996. That was my first bust in Amsterdam.
I see.
I've had several here.
How many times have you been busted in Amsterdam?
96, 97, 2001, 2004, and 2021. 5 times.
So 5 times.
And
But
April Fool's 2021 was the last time.
so I understand that the laws, though, they don't incarcerate you for long. Is that right? What is the jail like there in Amsterdam?
Pretty good compared to a lot of jails I've seen in the world. I was in jail in the Czech Republic in 2010.
Wow.
They had the first cannabis exhibition in Czech Republic, 2010. Many magazines were working with me. I was on the cover of this magazine that was written in Czech language as like the cannabis guru, and I was on the front cover. So I was supposed to speak there. In fact, you can go on YouTube and you can go Soma in Prague, and you can see my talk there in 2010. And so I talk. Before I get on the stage, I say to my friend, am I allowed to smoke? He says, yeah. I have a prescription and all. I have my paperwork. So at one point, I light up the joint. I smoke a few puffs. Somebody asks me, how do I smoke? I go, I smoke joints a lot, and I light up my joint. And then I pass it to my girlfriend, who proceeds to pass it through the audience, which is made up of Mila and a bunch of, and these narcs, without me realizing it, they're watching it get passed through the whole audience and probably filming it. And so after I talk for 35 minutes, I get off the stage. I go back to my booth where I have seeds set up and stuff. Many people, Mila's there. Many people are there. And 5 minutes later, these narcs come up to me and they said, you have to come with us. And I said, for what? And they said, promoting cannabis. And because I passed it, there's some weird law that gives you a 3-year sentence if you promote cannabis. And so I spent 48 hours in a horrible Czech jail compared to here. And then finally I got out and came back here. And I had to sign a paper that I wouldn't go to the Czech Republic for 5 years, which I didn't.
Right.
And so
that you wouldn't want to.
Yeah. And so compared to a jail like that was there in Prague, the jail here is very nice, but it's still jail. You're still locked up. You get your freedom taken away. You know, it's hard to communicate. You know, it's like And me being a medical cannabis user, I didn't get my medicine this last time. The first time in 2004, they gave it to me in jail. But
I
this
heard that
time,
they give
this
it in
time,
jail.
this
They've
time
changed.
2021, I never could get it. And I should still be able to, like, but I have no court case from 2021 yet. Now it's half 2022 and still no court case. But it does take time here, you know, COVID, there was COVID and all that stuff. But I think they messed up that court case. I mean, that particular bust that they did on me in
How long
2021.
were you in jail in
I was in
last year?
jail for 20 hours.
Okay.
They didn't give me my medicine. I asked for it many times. My lawyer called the jail and said, look, you either give my client his medicine now or you release him. So they had already confiscated the medicine. It wasn't there anymore. So they had to release me.
And you haven't heard from him since. Well, I hope you
No.
don't. We had a fellow on the show about 6 months ago, Robert Vaverka, who has the Cannabis and Cannabis Therapy magazine in the Czech Republic. And he also has been arrested for promoting cannabis. But
Ooh.
they're saying his magazine is promoting cannabis.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because that's a really bad law they got there. They can
Yeah.
cover like 20 different things with that law if they want to. And they're so, I mean, that was 2010. Now it's 2022. I hope it's way more cannabis friendly there, because back in 2010, it was anything but cannabis friendly. It was a drag, man.
Yeah, legalize us. It was his. Yeah, he was arrested just a couple of years ago. So I'm not sure what happened. I've got to get back in touch with him. But obviously, this is just a magazine. They didn't have any marijuana on him or anything. So
Yeah, well, I didn't have any on me either when they arrested me. Not one speck. It was just that I passed that joint and they watched me do it. So it was
how
just
long
there.
in
Huh?
the Czech Republic?
How long was I in jail there?
Yeah, was it still Czechoslovakia then, or had it
No, it
split
was
up?
Czech. It was Czech Republic then, and I spent 48 hours in a dungeon.
So, but the longest time was in Eugene, just the county jail.
Yes, yes.
So how did you come to start Soma Sacred Seeds?
Okay, I even after I got busted in 1996, I never stopped. I just kept doing it, crossing, like breeding, like watching, like really a really great project, like 51 different mother plants, each one distinctly different from the others, and cloning. You know, it's like it was, and I would never stop because I would feel like this is my medicine. I had open heart surgery. I ain't stopping. I ain't stopping using cannabis. I ain't stopping growing it. I'm growing my own medicine because the medicine that comes from the apotheke, you know, the medicine that comes from the apotheke like this.
Okay, and so Apatook's like a
This is gamma irradiated. I mean, it's a good strain to start with, a nice sativa, but it's gamma irradiated. It's hydro grown. It has pesticides, and I proved it. I proved it here in 2007. I had a court case here in the appeals court, and I had expert witnesses, a doctor and James Burton, the guy here that grew all the legal cannabis for Holland back in the 90s. And so I got found guilty on that case, but I had such a good case that they pardoned me. The only reason they found me guilty in 2007 here was so they wouldn't have to pay the 50,000 euros of lawyers' fees I had paid.
okay.
Because if they found me not guilty, they would have to pay my lawyer's fees, and I'd get reimbursed.
Boy, that's a good
So they found me guilty, so they wouldn't have to do that, and then they pardoned me, which I never seen happen here. I never really heard anybody I know here getting pardoned. But I had such an amazing medical case that I did with the 3 judges I was in front of, that they ended up pardoning me.
Do you want to talk
and I still tried to take it to the Dutch Supreme Court even after they pardoned me, because I didn't want to just get pardoned. I wanted to change the laws so that if you were a medical user, you were allowed to grow your own medicine and not be a criminal. But I never got that done. I mean, I have a friend here that has a permission to grow, and there's a few other people that have it. And maybe at some point, if they bring me to court for this last bust, I'll get that permission too, and as a medical user. But I didn't want to just get pardoned. I didn't want, I fought that case so that I could change the law for all of Holland. Didn't happen though.
Well, maybe, hopefully you won't get busted again. The laws have to change. Now it's legal in Malta and what in Belgium? Is it legal there too?
Not really, but it is getting legal in Germany. I'm supposed to speak there. One of the pictures I'm going to send you is there's a cannabis conference in Germany, in Berlin, the 19th and 20th of July, and there's 70 speakers, and I'm supposed to speak on the 20th. I'm one of those speakers. So, like, I'm supposed to go to Berlin. I don't really want to go, but I definitely want to spread the freedom bell about cannabis every chance I get. I'll risk my being to do that, because this plant is sacred. It's holy. It's the biggest healer. 50,000 industrial different use. I mean, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. This persecution about cannabis has to stop. This is fucking medicine, man.
Yeah, I know. I get to help patients here in Oregon and have for a number of years. We used to look at Amsterdam as the bright place where we could go and buy it legally in the stores. And I know growing was never really legal. So it was always this backdoor policy. But I remember back in from 1997 till 2002, it was legal to grow marijuana in Switzerland. And
right.
That I know there was a lot of cannabis coming from Switzerland into Amsterdam at that point, but
yeah.
You and I both got involved in a movie with this fellow Chris Iverson, along with Mila Hansen, the founder of the Pollinator hash making machine. And how did you get involved with that movie on your end?
Okay, I've known Chris for a long time. Even when I lived in Oregon, I knew Chris. Yeah. So I know him from back before Amsterdam. And when I started the seed company and started really working with genetics a lot, he was watching, and he said, "Look, I want to get a bunch of your seeds, and I want to plant them in Switzerland." And so he got a bunch of seeds from me, and then he came up with the idea of making the Green Goddess movie, and he said, "I want you in it too. I want you in this movie."
You have a really big part in it as the expert grower that teaches the newbies from America how to grow. And you've got Mila in there too.
Oh man, I got to tell you about that scene with Mila.
Please do.
Okay. We had to go to the Damn Cream coffee shop at 7 a.m. They open at 10. So we had to go there three hours before they open and put in, what do you call people that they don't really have a role? They're extras. We had to put extras into the coffee shop to make it look like it was open and everything. And me and Mila are sitting there at one of the tables. When they walk in.
Yeah.
When the two Americans walk in, girl and guy. And so the scene called for we're smoking. I'm smoking a big fat joint, right?
Right.
So I light the joint. I'm smoking it. I do my lines flawlessly. I mean, perfectly. And then it's Mila's turn to do her line. She didn't get it. She just wouldn't get her line, right? And somehow, her not getting the line, even now, this is like 19 years later, if I think about it, I start to crack up because it's like she couldn't get her line right. Okay, so then we had to do cut, and I had to light a new joint, and for about 7 or 8 times she would blow it until it got to this point. Like all I had to do was look at her, and I couldn't keep a straight face. If I looked at Mila, even from the corner of my eye, it was over. Like I just got to this point of her fucking it up, like about 6 or 7 times, where like I couldn't look at her. She didn't have to mess it up anymore. Finally, we got the scene done. That scene in the Damn Cream, but it took us almost the 3 hours, the whole 3 hours that we had to get it done because she couldn't get her lines right. It took her, and then I lost it. I never knew what that was like when somebody doesn't get their lines right, until then.
We have a trailer, and we might as well pop it in here. I know you're talking about your part was filmed 19 years ago. This movie, The Green Goddess, has been in production for almost 20 years. It went through the whole recriminalization of cannabis in Switzerland in 2002. And in 2007, Chris Iverson came back to America, or maybe it was 2006. And we filmed a little part of it in my office. And I got a little part in there in 2007. But now the special effects in it are just phenomenal. Have you watched it?
I need to watch it again. Maybe send me a link for a good...
I'll send you that link. Yeah. We've just got finally distribution of the movie. Last year, Summerhill Entertainment agreed to finally distribute the movie, and they've been working on it. They had a hard time getting it out there too, but starting next month in August, it's going to be available on Amazon's pay-per-view, on Comcast pay-per-view, and on Tubi, which is a channel out there that's owned by Fox Media. So we have a 1-minute trailer that the folks at Summerhill Entertainment put together. So we might as well just run that right now.
You grew this?
A whole field.
Unfortunately, this is the last of it.
And we won't be growing anymore.
In Switzerland? You know it's legal to grow pot there.
What? We need passports.
Oh!
So you think you can just come over to Europe, grow some weed, and make a whole bunch of money?
I am so high right now. You'd be interested in buying some potpourri?
Can I have another one?
Don't act like you've never seen a telepathic cow before.
Replace the corn we grow with the green we know. She's the tree of life. It's a beautiful day to give the green goddess praise for these beautiful days. From the words that I say to the music I play, I bring the green goddess praise.
So here's our movie clip, and like I was saying, it's going to be on Amazon, Comcast, and Tubi starting in August. Finally, after almost 20 years, the film comes out. And so I'll send you over the link so you get to see that. But,
right.
You have a pretty major part in there in teaching the Americans how to grow. And
yes.
You did well on that.
I love that one line I say. I go, I like to think of my garden as the place the ladybugs come to dance.
That was great. Was that your idea?
Yeah, that's my idea.
I thought so. I figured that, and I got to say some stuff in my part. I actually played Dr. Paul Stanford in there.
I know.
My first name is Douglas, and so I'm D. Paul Stanford. But I work with doctors. I still help patients get medical marijuana permits here in Oregon and Washington. So I never planned to confuse people, and now I'm not a doctor, but I play one in this movie. So, which paraphrases an old commercial. Mm-hmm. So I know. Did you ever know Crystal George from Portland?
I don't think so.
Okay, he was also into minerals. And I know you had a mineral shop in Gainesville, Florida, and a hemp shop in Eugene
Yes.
first. Let's talk about those. How did you open your hemp shop in Eugene?
Okay. I had a cannabis case going
Uh-huh.
in Eugene, so I wanted to get even. How dare they
Yeah.
like call me a criminal because I know what this sacred plant is? How dare I get called a criminal? And I'm a medical user, had open heart surgery. It's the only medicine I use. How dare they call me a criminal? You know, so uh, I I wanted to find a way to put it in their face without getting
Mm-hmm.
arrested. So every
Yeah.
single thing I could find made out of hemp, every kind of cloth, every kind of paper, hemp ink, um, uh, you name it. I mean, hemp seed oil. I had every single hemp seed candy bars. I had every single thing in my shop. So much hemp. That was the name of it. So much hemp that
Yeah.
that I I I did accomplish something with that. Like I did open it up. I did
You
I
took
did go
a
to
lot
my
of people.
probation office. I was on probation. I went to my probation officer. I threw a bag of hemp seeds and a hemp seed candy bar on his table, and I go, I eat this stuff every day. I'm never going to test clean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And sure enough,
How
I
did
never did test clean.
uh-huh. I went through the whole Oregon thing and they never even tested me. But that was from like 86 to 91. I never got tested during that.
Yeah, because the testing wasn't so intense then. They first started piss testing for cannabis in '85 because I got piss tested then. But before that, they didn't do that.
Yeah.
They didn't have.
Then
They weren't capable.
yeah, I remember yeah, they didn't have piss tests until the mid 80s. And that was,
Yeah.
I remember Jack Herrer saying, this isn't the land of the free, it's the land of the pea. We were still, but if you want a job in the Netherlands, you don't have to piss clean for it, right?
Oh, this place is like, this place ain't what it used to be as far as cannabis freedom goes. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable, actually. It's unbelievable.
So
I mean,
that's
yeah, the coffee shops are happening and stuff, but it's so backwards for this day and age.
mm-hmm. How did that happen? How it was? I understand a conservative government came in, but
The
how did
euro,
they?
the European Union. See, when it used to be just the Netherlands and they were a sovereign country, they were so much nicer. The actual Dutch roots of this country have so much nice vibrations. Like I go to the spa, the sauna here once a week, and that whole Dutch approach to being naked in the sauna, men, women, not separated, dressing room, not separated even in the dressing room. That mentality of the Dutch, I think, is wonderful. It's so like progressive compared to many other places, and so that's
That's what you're coming from.
that's where I'm coming from, and it didn't go like that with cannabis. Like when I moved here in 1995, I thought this place cannabis is gonna be so legal here soon. It's gonna be, and it never went like that. All these 26 years, never went like that. Just now, there's 10 legal things started along with the government, like an experiment that's happening now. But even that is kind of, I got to see that to believe it and see how it works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now you went to Gainesville and you started a minerals store. Tell us about minerals and your store.
Okay, in 1983, I went to prison in Florida for 25 and a half months for heroin and cocaine.
Wow.
And this is my second set of dreadlocks, but my first set of dreadlocks got cut off.
Uh-huh.
And I was a mess then. I was a mess then. Prison actually saved me. It actually saved me.
Got you off the heroin and cocaine, I can understand.
And I never touched it again.
All
Never.
right.
So when I got out of prison in 1985 with a crew cut, that's when I started growing this set of dreadlocks, 1985. And at one point, they were 3.5 meters long.
Uh-huh. So then
I have a picture I can send you with me and Woody Harrelson, and I still have him then. I can send you that picture too. But it's like, and he just opened his own club. Because when he comes to Amsterdam, we play chess with each other and smoke our brains out.
Seen those pictures. I actually spent 3 nights at Woody Harrelson's house in the mid-90s.
We have so much in common. It's crazy, right?
I know. We're in the same movie,
Yeah.
Anyway, but I was starting to sell hemp paper, and he was interested in it. So people contacted me. I went and I hung out at his house. He gave me a yoga lesson on his roof there.
He's good at yoga.
Yeah, he is. He is.
Yeah.
And so, I've seen, but I haven't talked to him since the 90s personally. So there was a whole bunch of, the police intelligence people started contacting his accountant once he looked like he might go into business with me. And in fact, those same police intelligence people are still kind of following us around. Oh yeah. Well, that's true. Some of at the time in the mid 90s, I have a group of narcs and intelligence agencies that are still, following me around and harassing me, doing illegal stuff. But what do you do? They've scuttled a lot of stuff, but we keep going. So, but anyway, so how did you get to meet Woody Harrelson?
Okay, in 2003, 19 years ago, a friend of mine met him at a coffee shop, and Woody said to him, "Do you know anybody around here who likes to play chess, who's a stoner?" And he said, "Yeah, my friend Soma. He loves to play chess." So he brought him over to my house, the same house I'm in right now, because I've lived here 21 years. And we started playing chess with each other and smoking and getting really stoned. I mean, like, during the whole chess game, we'd be passing either a pipe or a joint. And we do it for, like, if he was here for 5 days, we'd meet every day and play at least 5 games of chess each day. And we'd be like 50-50. I'd win, he'd win, I'd win, it was pretty equal, It's like, last time he was here, he beat me more than I beat him. But he bought me a chess set. It was a nice thing. I still have it, So I always go, yeah, this is the chess set Woody bought me, because he really likes to play chess with me. We really have. And while we're playing chess, or in between when we're not playing chess, we talk about world conditions, everything. And now he's opened the Woods, his own cannabis dispensary in California. So, like, he
Yeah, he's got into business with Bill Maher and a couple other people.
Yeah. So more power to Woody, because he's a freedom fighter like us.
That's true. I remember he's been working for the environment as well, which I admire. And about the benefits of cannabis there. So if somebody wanted to contact you today, and what would be the best way to do that?
Well, my Instagram page is Soma Mission. And I'm on that every day, and a lot of people have Instagram, so that's a really easy way to contact me. Facebook also. I'm Facebook makes me use my passport name, which is Marc Rossman. So you could look me up on Facebook, or you could go to SomaSeeds.nl, which is my website.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to say or talk about, Soma, that we haven't covered yet?
Okay. We have to get this plant safe and legal worldwide. I mean, Thailand just did it. I mean, but this stuff has to happen globally everywhere.
Yeah.
It's important. Nobody needs to be persecuted about cannabis anymore. It should be treated just like you're growing tomatoes or strawberries in your backyard. That's how it should be treated. No other way.
Or even more so. You know, it is sacred. It's tied into
it's sacred.
The world's major religions. You go back, it's part of Shinto's practices. The emperor of Japan was coronated using hemp that's been grown by the same family for 1,300 years.
Yes.
In China, it's part of the funeral rites, and it's tied into even today's funeral rites. And obviously, we know that Kali and Shiva and Ganesh were tied to cannabis in Hindi beliefs. And then you look at the holy anointing oil of both Judaism and Christianity.
Cannabis, that's cannabis.
It's definitely a sacred plant. It's even more important, I think, than tomatoes and that. But it should.
You're correct. You're correct. It is. In Farsi, they call it Chardonnay. That means king of seeds.
Oh.
And that's because it makes more seeds per plant than any other plant. But it's also because it has so many wonderful uses as a plant. There really isn't any other plant that has that many uses that are so beneficial to humankind.
That's true. We have co-evolved with cannabis for over 25,000 years, and we desperately need that evolution to continue for energy, for food, for fiber. We could stop deforestation, world hunger. It just can solve so many.
And boy, could we build the economy back up.
Exactly.
Boy, does that need to happen. It's about to go bankrupt, the world economy. But it could get built up in a couple of years beyond any place where it ever was before with cannabis, with hemp.
Amen. Well, I want to thank you for coming on, Soma. Thanks for doing what you're doing. I hope someday to see you in person again. I think we met back in the 90s when you were here in Oregon, but if I get back to Amsterdam, I'll have to come by and play chess.
Nice. I love to play chess, and really nice connecting with you, Paul, because this is the best I connected with you so far. I feel like I miss connecting with you. I'm going to connect with you more.
I appreciate that, and I'm glad to have you on the show. And we'll be promoting this movie that's coming out next month, The Green Goddess. But thanks again, bro, and keep working to restore hemp.
Yes, you too.
Will do. Thank you, bro.